Welcome to Red Ice Creations Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren. This is Internet Talk Radio from the west coast of Sweden, and we are available worldwide over the internet at redicecreations.com. The new website is now up and in place, a new design, a new radio section, and also check out the forum. I hope you like it all. And of course, finally, the subscribers section is now up and running. A lot of people have been asking about it, so I hope all of you guys out there who are interested in hearing more and want to have access to our growing archive of subscriber interviews, click on that subscribe button. Also, of course, when you subscribe, you will at the same time support our efforts and help to keep this radio show and also redicecreations.com alive and kicking. Before we get to today's show, I want to say thanks to Robert A. Anderson for being with us last week, talking about the search for genuine gnosis. And today we have Wayne Herschel on the program, and we are going to talk about the hidden records. This is about human origin and the question if we really come from the stars. This is an awesome show, so stick around and enjoy the program. Today we have Wayne Herschel with us on the line, and this is going to be a fascinating program. We recently had Gary A. David on this program talking about Orion and star maps, and Wayne's research is within this very same area. It's about star patterns and how these patterns basically are laid out here on Earth. It's about Orion, Ceres, and the Pleiades. We're going to talk about Mars and the face on Mars, the Sphinx maybe, and the pyramids. And even Stonehenge, and how does the Pentagon connect with all this? Wayne is the author to a book called The Hidden Records, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. The beautiful website that you need to check out that goes hand in hand with this book is called thehiddenrecords.com, and I suggest that you check that out as we speak here today. There are likely that that you'll be able to take a look at the pictures there and so forth on the star maps and other things that might come up as we speak here today. So take a look at that, thehiddenrecords.com. So Wayne, this is going to be great. I mean, welcome to the program, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
Excellent, great to have you here. And you know, as I said before we got on here, there's so many aspects to all of this, and I just basically, if you can, would like to, go through this from the beginning, so to speak, and kind of work our way through your main thesis, if we can. And I mean, where do you want to begin? Do you want to begin to, talk a little bit about yourself, or basically about your main thesis? I mean, I guess that they both connect somehow, correct?
Sure. I'm privileged in the sense that I've had two life-altering experiences that perhaps instigated my research very seriously. One was a near-death experience where one feels consciousness outside of the body, and another was I was very fortunate to see lights in the sky that was in the papers the next day. It was a really unusual sighting of things that were not aircraft or anything as such, and having both of those experiences as for me being factual, knowing that they were real, there was something unexplainable, but it was there. We could see it. Other people saw it. And as for my soul being out of my body and thinking outside of the body and realizing, life perhaps moves on and there's greater meaning. It changes research with a very, very unusual background, I would say.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. So, I mean, do you have any idea in regards to these lights as you saw? What was this in South Africa?
Actually, it was in the Rhodesian days. It's now Zimbabwe. I lived in a town called Bulawayo, and one of the, I look at books and they refer to it as one of the hot spots.
Oh, really?
For sightings, yeah.
Ah.
And it was the typical Lubbock Lights formation. In other words, lots of lines within a V-shape formation. Just to give you an idea, we were driving home. It was pretty late evening traffic, with people returning home from work in twilight, sort of sun already set, and you could see some stars on the horizon. Yeah. And people were stopping cars in front of us and pointing, and we could see that it looked like an aircraft coming in low. Because you've got this V formation, the first thing that comes to mind is, the wings of an aircraft with lights on it.
Yeah.
It looked like it was coming into land. So, so we kept looking, but we kept driving, and we could see that this thing was getting very, very big. It was a lot bigger than any aircraft. So, of course, we stopped as well. And just watched, and there was no sound, and they just sort of went over and actually picked up speed and back out the city again. The strange thing is, in the newspaper the next day, they said it was seen in South America some 20 minutes later than the time that we saw it.
Oh.
That's kind of inspiring.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
My God, I haven't had the privilege to see anything like that myself, but I can only imagine. I mean, what's your take on it? What do you think that it was?
I think they're UFOs.
UFOs, and what are UFOs?
Well, exactly. What are they? Lights, just like shooting stars. Not a chance. I think there's obviously intelligence behind it.
Yeah.
The formation was pretty spectacular because they were almost like. I think the best thing to describe it was it wasn't so fixed in a formation. They were sort of bobbing a little bit, and you can see that they were different things. They weren't connected. They were all individual lights flying on their own accord, but yet in sort of one body.
Yeah, interesting. And so, how did you? Was this kind of an entry point for you into these kinds of subjects?
Well, yeah. My father's had an experience as a child. He's passed away now, and he told us something really amazing, afterwards, and sat us down and said, "I'm going to tell you something, and you can take it as maybe I was dreaming one day, or maybe it's real. But don't laugh at people when they talk about little green men, whatever."
Yeah.
And he explained what really messed up his life as a child. That he saw something, and then a close encounter of kind of the fourth kind, which is. Whoa, this is my father telling me stuff now. Yeah. And he kind of interacted with these sort of so-called entities. And as children, we were kind of inspired, gosh, what are these funny little men that he's talking about? And he was referring to them as very sort of no color. They were colorless. There was no sort of shade. They were just like a pale-looking creature. And he called them onion head men, which is typical sort of what we call aliens today. Yeah. What was upsetting for him was that it totally messed up his childhood because nobody would believe him.
Yeah.
He was put in a boarding school, and he learned that he just doesn't talk about it. And after seeing something like this, it kind of opens one's mind up. But he did say, maybe I was dreaming, maybe it was real. So with greatest respect, that's the best way of telling a story like this,
Yeah.
Let people make up their own minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I started researching. And when I showed him pictures of these things, it brought tears to his eyes, and he just wouldn't talk about it. He said, "Look, I'm not going to say any more. You can see now that there's probably something very important there," and that's how we left it.
Interesting. And I know that these kinds of I guess contact situations often I've heard run kind of like in family lines. Have you had any contact of this kind?
Well, yeah. I have this typical, after researching it, I have this typical missing time scenario as a teenager, and found myself next to my motorcycle and just guessed that I fell off it and had a strange mark on my leg, and really sort of felt nauseous thing, almost like wanting to vomit and aching all over, and I just guessed that it was from the motorcycle accident, but I'm going to one day research that. I'm very interested to find out what happened here, but it's going to take regression hypnosis perhaps, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm probably afraid to hear what I might hear.
Sure, I understand. Yes, I mean, let's begin to, talk about your book, and as I said, maybe we can, kind of go through this, because there is simply so much information. What, if you can outline for us, what is it that you have found here? Yeah,
it's quite a... I battled for years to try and put it in a nutshell, but let's take that go. I found a pattern, call it a star pattern, that seems to reoccur with the layout of monuments. For example, starting in Egypt, that there's this huge pyramid field by the side of the Nile. There's approximately 50 or so pyramids in one huge group down the Nile. Then there's a huge gap until you find pyramids much further down the Nile. And this pattern seems to be the epicenter, the most important part of it. And on recognizing that it was the depiction of the Pleiades. Got quite excited. I thought, well, this is so important. We would expect to find it in other places, and this is where the journey began. And I've tried that template over Stonehenge, over the most important Mayan pyramid cities. I've tried it Angkor Wat, and just the results are absolutely amazing. I mean, nobody would expect to find the same pattern appearing everywhere, would they? And
no.
When people hear me talking, they're going to say, yeah, right, join the dots, make any pattern you want. We've got complicated patterns here, very complicated patterns.
Yeah, indeed. So, what constellations are involved here? Is this a grid pattern? I mean, you found it on Mars, on different,
even on Mars.
on different.
Maybe the Pleiades star cluster that seems to be the prime point, but it's using Orion very cleverly as a cosmic signpost, because the three stars of Orion follow each star in a row as a group of three. It takes you to the area of Taurus. Now remember, Taurus was let's just not call it Taurus, the bull, the sacred celestial bull to ancient civilizations in the complete northern hemisphere. That's the whole of the northern globe, was a big deal. They worship bulls. They worship the disc between the bull's horns. It knows the story. It's everywhere. It's in Hinduism. It's in the Angkor Wat story. It's basically pretty much all the way through the world. And I think they are revering the place of their so-called gods coming from the area of the celestial bull. And the pattern is the Pleiades. That's the most important part of it, it appears.
Ah, interesting. So this is, I mean, I don't know if you want to go there right away, but of course, Robert Bauval brought out this pattern that Orion connects with the pyramid in Egypt, the Great Pyramid, and so forth. How does your research differ from Robert's?
It takes his greatest find that astronomers really couldn't fault, the three pyramids of Giza, two large ones, one small one, correlating with two bright stars, one smaller star, and that sort of, it's okay, three versus three, but what makes it really work is when you look at the context of all the other pyramids around it, with the new correlation theme. So I've used his key pattern, which are those three stars and those three pyramids, and tried a different scale, and it's amazing how one whole group from the Nile Delta right up to the complex at Abusir, which is the Pleiades, which, by the way, Robert has acknowledged in his new book that I published that finding first, is quite likely, and that the Pleiades is Abusir and Orion is part of Giza. So the big question is, what does it all mean? And that's what people should be asking.
Yeah, exactly. So what does it all mean?
What happens is, if you take the ancient Egyptian story to start with, they have one pyramid temple, and it's very confusing for listeners to think of temples and pyramids, but what confused the whole issue is some pyramids, like the Mayans, for example, have these temples on top of them. In the case of Egypt, they call this giant obelisk on top of a pyramid. They built a huge obelisk and they put a gold cap on it, and they called this the solar temple, sun temple. And this was the proverbial X that marks the spot out of the whole pyramid field. This one is right in the middle. This is the one that has the Ra worship analogy stuck with it. It has the worship of a celestial ship that came from the sky with it. This was the ultimate temple. It's the only one that ever had a gold cap. I mean, they can say some of the other pyramids might have. This one is the one that is written to have had a massive, massive capstone, probably 5 times to 10 times bigger than all the other capstones.
Oh, my.
Covered in gold. So this was like a beacon. It would have looked like a lighthouse. Now, this one is the only one out of the whole pyramid field